Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And every day we try to tackle a general question that faces many people in the workplace. Today we have a question that has faced me and our guest together over a long period of time, where we've had versions of this question. So I'm here with Ben. For those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. Ben is today the founder of a startup called MOJO, which he'll tell us about, but has been, I'm going to miss some things, best-selling author, novelist, whose book, The Survivor Club, I still recommend to people, a media executive running ABC News and then all of ABC television at Disney, an investigative reporter, which was, when you were producing news, was where we first met. We don't even want to say when, but a summer a long time ago. JFK Jr.'s plane crash. That's the dating fact for everybody. And so, Ben, the question today: what does a good mentor-mentee relationship look like? And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Roy. Thanks for the invitation. And a good mentor-mentee relationship looks like the summer of 1999, when young Roy Bahat walks into NBC Nightly News.
With hair.
At the time, a senior producer. And we embarked on a relationship, a friendship that has spanned 22 years and has spanned many twists and turns, where I took a great interest in you and your career and in your pursuits, and you took a tremendous interest in what we were doing then, which was the news at NBC. And then the relationship was mutual and reciprocal. And I think that sort of one of the most important ideas I have about mentorship is that there is a mutuality and reciprocity to it. It's not a one-way street.
Yeah.
And I think that part of what I remember the day you left us at NBC News that summer, after you'd worked for us for 8 or 10 weeks, I remember the day you left, we all went to our senior staff meeting to put together that night's show. And I remember our feeling was, wait a second, what do we do without Roy? Because you had become so indispensable to the program, but also to all of us in terms of your curiosity about the news and your willingness to listen and to learn about the news. And you learned a bunch of lessons, including you didn't want to go into the news business, which is part of what mentorship's about, which is learning enough to know, do I want to live that life or do I want to pursue a different life? And then if you're lucky, the mentorship or that relationship spans many, many years, and the relationship changes. So as you know, in various times in recent years, you've been my mentor as I have changed directions and paths, and I've come to seek your advice in San Francisco, and you've guided me. And that relationship can turn. And that's one of the most beautiful things of all, is if it's a good, long relationship, the mutuality and reciprocity changes with age and time.
Yeah, Sarah, my wife, has this line that she says, you should always have a mentor in every decade of their lives. So at any point in your life, you should have a mentor who's in their 20s, who's in their 30s, who's in their 40s. And we all shift, through these phases. And yes, my lesson from that summer was seeing the enormous role of the business side of the news organization. And that led me to some of my curiosity about the business of media, even though not wanting to be a business person when I started out and having a lot of skepticism about it. And then one of the domains that I worked in along the way, not because I was that deeply interested in it, but I just believed the power of it, was sports. And on the bid for the 2012 Olympic Games when I was in city government. And so, just before, when we were talking, you were describing some things that may be related to MOJO now, which is the way in which a mentor-mentee relationship, is that like a coach and an athlete, different than a coach and an athlete? Sort of, we have images of these things. Every kid knows what a coach looks like, or many do. Is that the right image to keep in mind?
So I like thinking of it as a coaching relationship, because, if you go back to the Greeks and to the Odyssey, this is where the idea of mentor comes from. Mentor is actually a character in the Odyssey.
Really?
And is an old advice giver. And so a mentor, in the most traditional and pretentious sense, is an advice giver, a person or a teacher. And I think that that's what a coach is. And a coach at any stage, whether it's a coach in youth sports, which is where I'm now spending my time, or whether it's a coach in the work environment, a coach is a teacher, a coach is an advisor. And I think that the most important rule in coaching at any level is to see the kid first and then the sport. and that the way to unlock someone in terms of coaching, teaching, advising is to really see who's in front of you first, and then figure out the play or figure out the game, and all of that follows. And I think of that in the mentorship relationship. Can you see the person? Do you understand where they're coming from? Are you listening closely to who they are and who they want to be? And then look at the game, look at the workplace, look at the play itself, and figure out how to play the game.
And I think this insight that a lot of people lack at the beginning of their career, where they think about the boss as this distant figure, is that we do all shift roles. The old man who's a contestant on Squid Game turns out by the end to be, not going to spoil it, in a different role. And the Roy Kent starts out as a player and ends up on the sidelines. And that idea that we might all find ourselves in different seats. And I think this is something, actually, there are many things in tech we don't do well, but one thing we do very well is when we're at our best, we remember that that junior person or that person who you wrote off as a crank might end up building the thing that ends up being profound. So you might as well treat everybody with respect, because you just never know.
So two observations about that. First, it's a young person's mistake. I say this as an older person, a young person's mistake to think that who we are right now is who we are going to be. And it's a young person's mistake, forgive me, all you young people, to sort of not understand that, in fact, over the course of 10 or 20 or 30 years, everybody falls, some people rise. And I think that one of the ideas about mentorship coaching that is misunderstood is that mentors are always older, that mentors are always wiser, that mentors are always grayer. And in fact, I would say that some of the most productive mentor relationships in my life have been with people younger than I am.
I love that.
At ABC News, one of my most influential mentors was a social media whiz who was in his 20s. And as a prize for having mentored me for an entire year and taught me a lot about social media back when social media was nascent, the prize was we changed jobs for the day. And
I love that.
He became the president of ABC News for the day.
I love that.
And I became the head of social media. And I have to say that it was hilarious, because he was down in my office in the corner on West 66th Street. And he was, according to my admin who called me out in the newsroom where I was sitting in his chair for the day, my admin whispered to me, "I have no idea what's going on there, but I think alcohol is involved." And I was sitting there at the social media desk,
wishing everybody a happy birthday. I know how you do social media.
Wishing everybody a happy birthday, but I had 80 million people at my fingertips.
Wow.
And I think that one of the things that just
I love that reversal.
Was that you're the president of ABC News, and you have this access and influence over these programs, but you're a 24-year-old sitting at this control
hand on the keys,
and you've got 83 million people. Now that number's much larger. It was a really eye-opening experience, which is why I think that I exhort people to look for mentorship, not just in the older, more gray-haired people around you, but also in areas where there's lots.
And said from one white male to another across all forms of difference. I mean, people who see the world differently, I just feel like we learn so much from them. That's really beautiful. Somebody now asking, in 1 year you can rise and fall. Reverse mentorship is key. I think that's kind of what we're saying, is that we never know where somebody's prospects will lead them. And so treating everybody in this flexible way of, there's no superior in this relationship, there's no better, there's just all of us in this shared quest learning from each other. Well, Ben, thank you. In this case, it is not advice, because we're just sharing our experiences, but, I still think of you as young, and we are, here's to 22 more years, if not more than that. And to be continued. And if folks who are watching have questions, we take them anywhere. You can find us on the internet, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., and welcome your comments, because this is a conversation